Well, it's time for another gear review. Thanks for clicking on the video. After a lot of deliberation over the last few years about quilts and sleeping bags, should you get a quilt? Should you stay with a sleeping bag? Stay with a sleeping bag, get a quilt? Watching God knows how many YouTubes, I decided to pull the pin and get a couple of quilts. Last night was the first night trying the summer quilt out, which I opted for the Pajak Quest quilt. Now, the reason I've gone for this for a summer quilt is I've already got a Karabatic Flex 30 for the winter. That is a very high quality quilt with 900 hydrophobic down and a very good temperature rating and a very good pad attachment system. Haven't tried it yet, but I've looked at all the reviews and everybody's raving about the Karabatic. I just could not justify spending that amount of money for a summer quilt, which 9 times out of 10 you're not going to need the pad attachment point. You're just going to put it over yourself and you're going to be out in summer weather, of course. So Pajak is a Polish company. They don't have any customization options on these quilts. They're made of a 700 down, so there's no option for what down you use, and it's not hydrophobic. So this is actually literally a summer quilt. You do not want to be getting wet or anything like that. It weighs about 430 grams without the bag and without the bungee attachment system. So it's pretty lightweight. That's the size of it there against my hand. There we go. Squashes down nice. It would actually squash a bit further in one of those Sea to Summit compression sacks with the straps on them. So it goes really quite small actually. It says it's got a comfort rating of 9 degrees. A limit of 5 degrees C and an extreme of -8 C. I mean, honestly, no kidding. You might not be dead at -8, but I think you probably have hypothermia in this thing at -8. I just don't know where these manufacturers get these ratings from, to be honest. 5 degrees? Pfft, no way. And even comfort at 9, I just could not see this quilt doing comfort at 9 under any circumstances whatsoever, unless you were inside it with a full down suit on. Maybe that's where they get it from, but normal sleeping wear, there's no way this quilt will do 9 degrees. So last night I used this on the top of the mountain here in Mallorca. It got down to 19 degrees. Okay, I was in shorts and t-shirts. So this t-shirt, it's not a merino or anything like that, just a cotton t-shirt. I was in my Cool Max Sea to Summit liner, which I really like, and that adds a little bit of warmth into the sleep system. So with that setup at 19 degrees, I was just not hot and not cold all night long. So I couldn't imagine this thing by any means doing 9. No way. Last night I didn't once feel like I was too hot and I had to chuck the quilt off, which is normally a sign that it's too warm, of course, and I was never too cold. So with that configuration of the liner, shorts and t-shirt, I would say this quilt would maybe be good to 15C at the limit, I would have said. It may do a little bit more if you've got a base layer on, a long sleeve top in bed, that sort of thing. You put the pad straps on it and cinch it around your neck, it might do a bit more. But honestly, I would say 15 is the reasonable comfort guide for this quilt. So it comes in this little stuff sack here. I'll give you a quick look at it, show you what it's like. Squashes down quite well actually and pulls out in a jiffy. So that's it there, laid out on the forest floor. I think there's a choice of green or red, but obviously in my view the green is the much better colour. And In comparison to the Katabatic quilt, because this quilt is primarily designed to go under a hammock, it's a little bit wider at the top. So when I put this on top of a Katabatic, I think the top was about 160 wide. So you can probably see there, if you wanted to, you could actually wrap it around yourself quite closely. Let's give you a quick look at the manufacture. So it's very nicely made. It's got nice labels on it. That's the straps there for the hammock. It's got a nice quality zip on it. It comes with this press stud here, which, can I open it with one hand? Yep, there we go. That is a lovely feature that actually the Katabatic quilt doesn't have, and I've heard some people say that the zip can ride down. So a lovely feature there that the Katabatic quilt doesn't have. You can see how nicely made it is. The only thing was, what the Katabatic has that this didn't have, was the Katabatic has a press stud at the top so you can cinch the quilt in around your neck. There was no press stud or mechanism on this, just these two loops. So I had this little T-bar in my spares collection. I've put that around there with a little key ring, and I can just slip that through there and then cinch the quilt around my neck. The neck area actually, in comparison with the Katabatic, comes with 2 cinch cords. There's one there and there is one over there, whereas the Katabatic just has one in the middle, and I've heard some people say that sometimes in the night it dangles in your face. So that's it there, fully open. So if you're in the summer, you can use it just as a traditional bed type quilt. You don't have to zip the footbox together or cinch the footbox at the bottom. You can see it's quite nicely lofted along those baffles. And here we have got the pad strap system, which is literally bungees with these little hooks that go around the straps. So, and there is actually in that bungee there's like a lock-in device, so you can actually lock them. So I don't think it's as good as the Katabatic one, but it has got a cinch down system. Lengthwise, I'm about 185, and last night I found with the footbox cinched, it was literally just up to my neck level. Not too long, couldn't have got away with any shorter. So just bearing in mind, if you are about 185 or above, then you might just be on the borderline depending on your taste for how much material you want at the top of your head. With this being a summer quilt, it's not like you're going to be out and you need to pull it right over your head or anything like that. So in my opinion, the length is pretty good at 185. Let's give you a look around the manufacture here. You can see it's very nicely made. You couldn't complain at the manufacture. Look at the pocket there, all very nicely done. I wouldn't say it's any different to the Katabatic, and it's also obviously made here in Europe by Pajak, so you've got no import fees. So that concludes the Quest quilt review. It cost me just under €200, including delivery, direct from Pajak. I think it's a really good price for the quality of the item and the way it's been manufactured. Pajak, if you're watching this video, my only comment would be to perhaps put a press stud at the top so you can cinch the quilt around your neck when it gets a little bit colder. I also, if I had a choice, would have had it maybe 20 centimeters less width at the top. As I said before, it's primarily designed for a hammock in my view, so it's got a little bit more width. But for traditional use, backpacking on a sleep pad, you don't actually need all of that extra width. So could have been trimmed down about 20 centimeters at the top, just to save a little bit of extra fabric. But to be fair, on the other hand, if you're using it in the summer, you're probably not going to use the pad strap system, and it doesn't make a lot of difference just having that little bit of extra fabric over you, just like a traditional quilt in the bed, which is the way I used it last night. And I did find when you cinch the neck down and pull the draw cords in, it kind of forces that fabric on the sides underneath you without even using the pad strap system. So that was quite a good feature. I really like the press stud at the top of the zip. The only thing I would say is, haven't used the Katabatic yet, but I could feel it when my legs are on top of it because it's quite a big press stud. So on one hand I'm saying I like it, on the other hand you can feel it under your legs sometimes when you're turning over. So overall, I would say for a summer backpacking quilt, up to around about 15 degrees C, depending on how you sleep and what you wear inside your quilt when you go to bed, I would say it's a really good buy. If you're in Europe, you've got no import fees, no taxes, and it arrives in a few days. And for just under 200 euros, you can't really go wrong for a quilt nowadays. If you've enjoyed the review, don't forget to click and subscribe, and I'm sure I'll be back with something else not in the too distant future. Thanks again guys, stay safe.